since the Industrial Revolution, we didn't have a point of so much leverage. But now, even more than in the past, a single individual, a single contributor, a single software engineer can have an amazing leverage bringing its impact. So think about the impact that one live line of code, one file can have globally. That's amazing.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with Leumitech, sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Synergy Global, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, Birthright Excel, Serona Partners, and in media partnership with CTech. Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Meet Gal Aviv, the CTO of Digital Turbine's app growth platform and the general manager of the company's Israel site. In his role, Aviv leads the global R&D teams developing Digital Turbine's mobile monetization and user acquisition solutions, a key part of the company's independent mobile growth platform. Gal joined startup company Inneractive in 2013 and has led the building and scaling of the company's technology through 2 exits and acquisitions. Inneractive became Fyber in 2018, and he kicked off his career in the Israeli Air Force as a software engineer and engineering manager, serving as a captain in the R&D unit OFEK. Gal is the founder of the nonprofit DevOps training program Cloud School, an early-stage investor, and serves on several advisory boards, including OFEK 324 Alumni Association, the Appleseeds Academy, Joyned, and Spot.io, which was recently acquired by NetApp. He studied software engineering and holds an Executive MBA from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. Gal, the career that you've had is fascinating, touching both on deep research within highly bureaucratic systems like the Israeli Air Force, but also highly innovative, transitioning also working with investments and working a little bit with JVP and being on the advisory boards of some of the most phenomenal startups in the ecosystem like Spot.io, and later on Vice President R&D of Inneractive, which was sold to Fyber, being CTO of Fyber, and then which was sold to Digital Turbine, and today obviously general manager and a CTO position within Digital Turbine. So Gal, how do you describe sort of your thought process through the career that you've had?
Okay, so first of all, thank you for this amazing intro. I think I couldn't do it better myself. Before we begin, I want to say it like being a CTO of such a huge company and managing such a large operation, but I want to make it super clear. I'm a software engineer in my mind and soul and my entire heart, and that's always my favorite part of what we are doing. I think that the interesting part to look at when we are watching this journey for the last decade is actually the way you are doing from building the actual technology of a very small startup, setting the foundations of what's going to be like a world-scale platform, from the very early days of having almost like nothing, very small team, writing most of the code, handling production during weekends, and then scaling it more and more, both looking at the team but also at the technology. And our story begins the story begins more than a decade ago. I think I began my way coding in a very early age, I think maybe 6 years old or something. I'm not sure. You asked for a funny story, some funny facts about me, and one of the things I got to remember was, I was in Zombit, which was kind of an Israeli tech show many, many years ago when I was very young. And I think I'm writing code since I can remember myself. But my journey began at the software research and development unit of the Israeli Air Force. Today it's named OFEK 324, but it had different name in the past. It wasn't that popular as it is today. When I joined the Israeli Air Force and the R&D unit, the type of people who were joining those units were kind of different than what we see today. And I studied my bachelor's degree before. It was like part of the academic reserve, or in Hebrew you call it Ha'tudah Akademait, which is the plan where you study for your first degree before the military service.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, what I was building during those years, today I'm still serving. Like I'm not serving now, but I'm in reserve, the captain of the unit. But actually, what we were building in the unit, without getting into too many details, is extremely mission critical or life critical high scale real time systems. And I think that the most interesting part is the way you understand the opportunity you have to use stuff you were building when it comes to like those hard criterias of being like mission critical, and then translating it to what's relevant outside of those, mission critical systems. I was serving for about 7 years in total in the unit. And after I left, I joined Ziv and Ofer, who founded a small startup company in a field which at the time was almost unknown. It's called EdTech, like a combination of advertising and technology. And, we were still like on the edge of like between second generation and third generation of mobile phones. It was very early days. And even the concept of like trading in like ad space over what mobile devices, like you had second generation, mobile devices didn't mean a lot when it comes to headspace. And these were very early days. And I actually joined to build technology, but make sure that it's scalable. And the interesting thing is and again, I must say, I was never interested in advertising. When people talk to me about marketing and advertising, and I'm like coming from, building those mission critical systems, like that's not interesting. What like I was busy building stuff that is supposed to help saving people's life. For example, I was part of the team building the systems that knew how to alert on time when a missile is about to impact like a specific neighborhood.
Wow.
But the interesting thing is, but the thing is that you could see that the potential when it comes to EdTech is the scale in real time. These were also the kind of early days of AWS and later on GCP becoming more popular when it comes to automatically scaling systems. Okay, it was something that was not that familiar at the time. Again, I'm talking about more than a decade ago. And these were the early days of start building like automatically scalable systems. And we just combined, the expertise of like building mission critical systems, talking in the terms of nines, like talking about 3 nines or 4 nines, like meaning 99.9% availability of a system. It was something super relevant when you talk about platforms that you are building as part of the military service or mission critical platforms. But then translating it into advertising technology, making sure that you are able to serve like very huge amount of traffic with very high availability of your systems, that was not trivial, especially back in those days. And one of the things we figured is that if we will be early enough at this, like smart enough, in this early enough stage of building the infrastructure, it might be super beneficial in the future. So we built the foundations of the technology. It took us some years to have our first like a financial event, or like people like to call it in Israel an exit. But we were actually acquired for the first time by a public company, and then we went from being Inneractive, a privately held small Israeli startup. By the way, I can call it a garage startup, and it was actually like a garage startup. It was like based between garages here in the industrial area of Petah Tikva, which is kind of
incredible
industrial area of Tel Aviv, I would say. So kind of, extreme way of naming it garage
so
startup.
Cool.
It was cool. And the first acquisition was I would say it was about $86 million. And again, it was some years ago. So at the time, $86 million was supposed to be much. Today, it's like round A or round B for many startups. But these were different days. And you were acquired by a public company. It was named Fyber. It was traded in Europe. And shortly after the acquisition, something kind of amazing happened. And us, as the leadership of the small startup, which was the fourth or fifth one acquired by the huge Fyber at the time, we were nominated to lead the new company, to lead the Fyber. And I was nominated as CTO of the acquiring company.
How does that happen, by the way? Because it wasn't... Right. How does that happen that you're joining a new company, company acquires you, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a position of a leadership of the parent company, which is publicly traded in Europe? How does that transition happen?
So, I must say these were crazy days for many reasons. One of them is that the company acquired 4 or 5 companies, one after the other at the time. Like Fyber acquired few companies. Inneractive, I believe, was the most recent and the biggest one when it comes to the cost of the acquisition, if I'm not mistaken. Again, it was some years ago, but the point was that Inneractive had really amazing financial and business and technological performance. By the way, also big part of the other sub-products or companies which were acquired, but we had the potential to lead this to the next step. Few things happened. It would be too long to get into the details, but few things which are related to 3 major aspects, like products, technology, and business came together and created the opportunity for us to take the leadership for the entire company. Now, the interesting thing was that now, okay, you have the result, which is the acquisition of many, the result of many acquisitions, and now you need to integrate not only products, you need to make sure that you are building one integrated product suite, but also that you are integrating technologies and the most complicated people, different cultures. You need to build trust. Mm-hmm. And, I must say that I think that the biggest challenge at the time was the cultural gaps, not the technological gaps. By the way, I always say technology is easy. Once you build trust and understanding between teams, technology is easy. But the gaps in culture, in technical culture, in personal culture between the States and Europe and Tel Aviv, that was big. And that was lots of work to build and to make it one solid ecosystem. And I think that for about 2 years, starting the day I stepped into the position, I was splitting my time mostly between Israel and Europe, but also the States. And that was crazy. It was actually, it's like this movie, Up in the Air, when you just travel from one destination to another. I was spending half of my time in Israel and half of my time just in other states, and it was crazy.
Unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So, but it did enable us to integrate eventually and consolidate all of the different sub-products into one strong company, which was just recently, I would say about a year ago, going through another financial event, again, another exit. This time we were acquired by a NASDAQ traded company, a pretty famous one, Digital Turbine. Its symbol is UPS at NASDAQ. And again, it was the biggest and the most recent after a few acquisitions by Digital Turbine, which included also Ed Colony and the Israeli startup Appreciate as well. Shortly after, I was asked to take the leadership for the entire Israel operation, which includes also the Appreciate technology and some former Digital Turbine technology based here as well. And in parallel to this, also to take the position of the CTO of the entire app growth side of Digital Turbine, which is the EdTech related aspect of its entire technology. So that's actually what we are doing now, and that's what I'm building now.
Wow.
And
I need a breath from hearing about this crazy journey on all the different transitions you've made here. From Inneractive, privately held Israeli company, to transitioning to now being multinational and being in a leadership position in a publicly traded company where you're now, and you as the CTO and as an engineer from basically when you were born, you're basically saying that, once you figure out culture and people, technology gets there. And that's a big saying for somebody in your position. And then going through another shift and now being in a leadership position within a US NASDAQ company, a US publicly traded company, and dealing all in a world of extreme scale, but in a world that you never actually intended of necessarily getting into, marketing and ad tech.
Yeah, so I think that first of all, it was an amazing journey, and I must say that I think that there are very few constellations that can make somebody who is mostly about tech and engineering stay and grow together with a company or companies. But when you build a team and when you build technology and when you build stuff for so long and you are so strongly invested, you really feel you have an opportunity to build something which is bigger than the sum of its parts. I think that the most interesting point to understand here, looking a little bit about the business. So yes, I'm not about marketing. I'm not a marketing guy, and I'm not about advertising. That's not my thing. It's about technology. But I'm also into engineering, and I'm also into scale. And we need to understand something. When we are talking about a company like Digital Turbine, investing so much in acquisitions, most of them in Israel, but also globally. Just to get a bit of understanding, only in the past year, Digital Turbine invested about more than $1 billion in tech acquisitions. Now, looking at the core assets of Digital Turbine, which is the presence, and by the way, today Digital Turbine has presence like code bases on device code presence on more than 700 million devices globally. When you take this and you connect it to the scale of the ad tech side of the company, which is, let's say, hundreds of millions of live transactions every minute, you get like amazing opportunities. Okay, now, of course, there are aspects of data privacy and so on, but this is engineering in scale, right? So when we are talking about technological opportunities bringing scale, that's exactly where you meet it. And that's exactly when also Israel, like Israeli engineers, has the opportunity to be part of something like really global and much, much bigger.
Incredible. I have a question for you, Gal. Yeah. If you're looking at this engineering feat of global and scale, and obviously you're in the space and you're both, heavily investing in, but you're also the technologies that you're building with Digital Turbine and having code run, obviously, on I can't believe how many devices you were mentioning before. What did you learn as a leader, as an engineering leader, and as a company leader when you're leading teams in the world of scale? What is sort of the leadership experience that you have to exude on other people and with other people to get to a point where you're doing scale properly? Because everybody loves the word scale, but how do you actually lead an organization to do scale in a way that maintains the quality and allows the organization to grow innovatively while maintaining its high scale?
Okay, I love this question. I really love it because it touches the core essence of what I love talking about when it comes to engineering. First of all, the way I look at it, there is a huge difference, especially when I hire people, but there is a huge difference between programmers and people who write code to software engineers. And I'm a strong believer in software engineering, okay? And it's different. Coding is not software engineering. And how is it connected to scale? So thinking about the numbers, okay, let's talk about the fact that potentially we are touching hundreds of millions or even billions of devices and users globally. Okay, once I try to analyze it, it seems like 1.3 billion different users are going through our servers every month. Just, some kind of idea. Now, since the Industrial Revolution, we didn't have a point of so much leverage. But now, even more than in the past, a single individual, a single contributor, a single software engineer can have an amazing leverage bringing its impact. So think about the impact that one live line of code, one file can have globally. That's amazing. We didn't have this. Like that was the entire thing behind the industrial revolution in the past,
Amazing.
Right? But today it's much like we had no such situation in history with this huge leverage. But with and I always say it, with opportunity comes the responsibility. And the way I see it, there is no real difference between a software engineer and a structural engineer. And when you walk around the city, when you drive over bridges, you look around, you see all those skyscrapers, and you see all those buildings, and you go through elevators. You want to know that a solid engineer has planned and signed all this stuff around you, right? Because if it was not done by solid engineers who understand the fundamentals behind and the basics of what they are doing, you couldn't feel safe, right? And we had like cities falling apart around us. And that's exactly how I see engineering for scale. And again, that's our responsibility, building the next generation of platforms, of global scale systems, making sure that it will not only be good for bringing some investors and money on board, but actually serve us globally in scale. And I think that that's the most interesting
Gal,
area of
I think that I think that what you're saying here is phenomenal, and I just love and I'm inspired by your outlook as an engineer, as an engineering leader, as a coder, but as someone who I can see is so passionate about the way that these organizations are being led and the way that you're thinking through so intentionally your own leadership style and so complementing that of the organization, and at the end understanding the global complexities of what you're dealing with. But at the end, it all comes to people, and it all comes to culture, and it all comes to us working together. It doesn't matter if you're a software engineer, it doesn't matter if you're the CEO or president, and that is a huge takeaway of mine from these 20 short but very meaningful minutes. And I really want to thank you for your time and for your effort and for your energy. I know how busy you are, and I can't wait to share this with friends and family and other entrepreneurs around the world. So thank you very, very much, Gal.
Same here. Thank you, Michael. Have a great day.